Hi there, welcome to Bitcoin Cash Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. We'll go straight into the chart and let's explore what's happening to Bitcoin Cash and whether it is giving us a sign of long-term value because in the very beginning, from the very first session of Bitcoin Cash, I mentioned about my worries. If you're new to this session, I'm going to go straight into it now, so let's not waste everybody's time. This pink box over here was what I drawn from the very first session, saying Bitcoin Cash has been exhibiting a downward trend even when there is a distribution cycle and where the price peak was at a point like 100% higher than the lower level, or even more, probably 2 to 3 times compared to where the low was. So the low was almost around 100 back in 2022 to 2023. It was a little bit better from mid 2023 to early 2004, but still that's only around 220. Now that the price was around mid 600 at a certain point, that means that's like 2.5 to 3% compared to where the 2003, early 2000 level. The key thing here is this week's candle currently is still above this pink box, meaning the thing that I mentioned when I brought up this downward trend of the peaks, it has to at least test or go outside of this pink trend box, test this 615 level, best to stay above the green key level of 615 in order to show the long-term supporters or the diamond hands that it still has the long-term potential to recline to a higher level or a long-term value worth people speculating when the price returns to a lower level. Reason being this downtrend, if it has to continue, these candles wouldn't close above the pink edge. So as of now, we're still 44 hours away from this candle. Finger crossed that this candle this top does not come back down to within the pink box. That will leave us a long wick at the top, much like what happened in August, mid-August. So when that happens, the long-term value trend is going to continue. So hopefully it's going to stay where it is, at least best stay above 615 key level. That's when end of 2024 show us, and it's a sign where at least the long-term value has been defended instead of continuing the downtrend. So a pretty long story to start with. In terms of Wyckoff, if the blue scenario still holds true, this I would say it's already an upthrust instead of a second test. But you know, upthrust is basically another name for a second test, just that it's higher than the buying climax. So while this scenario can still evolve, let's say if this is a sign of weakness before the second test, and subsequently maybe we'll see another sign of weakness, and then eventually maybe the price will come down for a preliminary support. That means the distribution cycle is over. That's the scenario where this does not show us any long-term potential and dies down pretty quickly. The second scenario, more positive, is that it continues to trade and consolidate sideways, meaning breaking outside of this pink box, and continue to trade and eventually break to the upside. When I look at the Bollinger Band corner squeeze, currently it doesn't have a squeeze. The squeeze that happened around mid-May has been released around like during the uptrend all the way till end of July, and then we have been in a sideways zone between the green, sorry, I should turn this off, not the other one, between the green and this yellow key level. That's 612 and 351, I guess, or 350. Yeah, 615, 350. We have been in this range since July 21st. So 7 weeks in total, we have been trading sideways within this $85 range. That may not continue if the price doesn't stay above this 615, because eventually it will continue to trade and being suppressed by the pink box. People may lose confidence and start selling. So be careful if this week's candle is going to come down to close below 600. That's a warning sign. So big picture set, let's go to the daily. Okay, so last point of supply, sign of weaknesses, all happened. And then it reclined to re-challenge the green key level of 615. As of this moment, I'll just call this a second test. There's a potential it's going to develop into an upthrust of the distribution. But that's further down the line, and remember what I said in the weekly, if this doesn't hold, then the upthrust of the distribution would not happen. It's just as simple as that. As of this moment, it's still a shaky situation, because what happened during last week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, eventually Monday as well, they were all closing or closed outside of this upward trend box. Only this week, starting Tuesday, the price returned to where it is, but then it's finding resistance from this green key level. So whether or not it can break above this upthrust in the daily time frame, the next few days is a big test, because here we see the blue box crossing the green key level. This triangle is where it is going to tell us where the bulls or the bears wins. That's somewhere near the end of this month. So by end of this month, there's still a bit of time left, 3-ish, almost 4 weeks. This, if it continues to trade between the green line and the white line, plus this bottom edge, so 3 dimensions in total, it will eventually come to the tip, or near the tip. That's when a decision has to be made, or the bulls and the bears has to fight hard to either break to the upside for the bulls, or come outside of this upward channel box eventually, much like what happened that I mentioned, and heads towards the next sign of weakness. So let me add a tag over here, because that's potentially where it is going to. So combining what's happening in the weekly and plugging it back to the daily, unfortunately, like, there seems to be quite some hesitation about Bitcoin Cash. So the likelihood of getting towards this side may be a little bit higher. I would say 70%. And towards the upside, probably 30. So this, if it continues to be suppressed by the green and reaches these time frame, the deadline, when it breaks out, that's the potential direction and level the price is going to head to. So let's see whether that would happen that way for Bitcoin Cash. Hopefully it's going to stay above the pink box, like I mentioned many times in one session, and best to stay above 615, because that's a very key sign for the diamond hands, whether they should continue to be diamond hands for Bitcoin Cash or become a diamond hands for something else. Thanks for joining me today. Tomorrow and basically the day after for me, but for you maybe it's the same session, like same day sessions. I'll continue to the same roster of altcoins, including SHIB. So basically, it's the last time I covered the same roster. I've posted the new roster just yesterday in the community post, so go check it out, because from like after tomorrow's session, first then I'll move on to the new roster where I'll cover 14 like more popular coins in my channel, like based on the engagement, like people commenting or liking the video, and then 6 others trending altcoins from CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. So that's how it's going to happen after